In this video, you're going to learn how you ended up with health problems, whether that be erectile dysfunction, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or even if you know somebody who has dementia to cancer. But more importantly, you're going to learn what you can do to reverse that, something your doctors don't even know.
You need energy. So the way you get energy is you eat food. And all the energy we're going to talk about is in the form of sugar. What I really should have said is glucose, because that's how the medical industry talk about energy. Now, whether that glucose came from a vegetarian diet or a meat diet or whatever diet, doesn't matter. We're just here to discuss the process of getting your energy from your food into your body. Obviously, it's got to go through the blood vessels. What I want to make clear here is blood sugar is not supposed to hang out in your blood vessels. Think of your blood vessels as a freeway. It's not a parking lot. It can turn into a parking lot when there is an accident. And this is where diabetes comes into play, is when there's too much sugar in the blood vessel. And where is the sugar supposed to go? Into this cell, so that these mitochondria can make energy. The pancreas is the organ, sits behind the stomach. It secretes insulin, which is a hormone that goes into your blood supply. And that insulin takes the blood sugar and enters it into the cell. And there's the Energizer batteries to be made in the cell. And the only way it can be made in the cell is by blood sugar getting in. Insulin is the key to get the sugar from the blood into the cell. How much sugar is allowed in the blood vessels at any given time?
1 teaspoon.
You guys are like, dang, 1 teaspoon? I put 2 in a cup of coffee. The 1 teaspoon of sugar that you put in your coffee is allowed. The second teaspoon is your body says, so we have an extra teaspoon of sugar. Pancreas secretes more insulin to get that excess sugar into the cells to make energy. Your pancreas is doing this balancing act, always trying to balance your blood sugar, because more than 1 teaspoon of sugar, your body is smart enough to know it can start damaging things. It's a factory, your body. Because what happens when it gets sticky? Things get stuck together. Things start to break down. And your body knows that. So it says, as long as 1 teaspoon of sugar is floating around, everything will work the way it should. Think of the sugar as fuel. Where does the excess fuel go when your body gets enough of it?
Goes to fat.
You have this excess energy. Let's go ahead and store it as fat in case there's a famine. This guy who's overweight would do great in the wintertime, because he doesn't need to go out and hunt. He could stay home in the cave for all he cares. As long as he has water, he's good to go. People think of excess energy, go to the gym and burn it off. Maybe it's lifting weights. Maybe it's walking the dog. But just as a symbolism, that excess energy can be burned off during exercise. Your body also uses your energy, the fuel from the sugar, to run all of your bodily functions. And that's what this represents inside of the tummy. And we're talking about the liver, the kidneys, the bladder, the colon. Could just go on and on and on. There's a big misconception on how much energy is utilized in exercise compared to the everyday bodily functions. You guys need energy for your brain to work. And just to put it into context, your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it takes up 20% of your energy utilization. This is why this brain here is huge compared to these weights. Do you see the help sign with the Band-Aids on the liver going, help me? Your liver was supposed to handle 1 pound of fat for storage. I know that I have 1 pound of fat in my liver that if there was a famine, I would last. Now, I wouldn't last as long as David. What would your body do in a famine? It would maximize each little molecule of fat to get what it needs to get done. That's when my metabolism would slow down more, so that I would last longer. David's metabolism continued to burn the fat because the body's so smart. It'll go, we got enough for 3 freaking years in this body. So his metabolism's going to burn more fat. My metabolism's going to slow down because it's like, oh, she only has this 1 pound. So that's the intelligence of the human body bringing in metabolism changes. Mine's going to be a miser. David is going to be like, let it rain, because he's got so much excess fat. When you have a person who is overweight and has a liver problem, it's because the excess fat has also deposited itself in the liver. Here's what I want you guys to see. A guy who looks like this, the bodybuilder over here, he also can have a fatty liver. Both of these guys look very different, but both of these guys can have the same disease. A fatty liver is where your body will put excess fuel because our bodies have intended for us to always have reserve. Our problem is we keep adding to it and the body goes, no, we don't need that much fuel. The body wants to put the fat in the liver, but only 1 pound. So all the extra has to go elsewhere. So why does this bodybuilder look good but still have a fatty liver? Because the bodybuilder's working out 3 hours a day. I think I recall when my brother was competitive, he would work out twice a day so that he was ready for competition and dieting to a T and, feeling himself full of protein, looking chiseled and wonderful, but his liver was overloaded. He did not know that he had a fatty liver. Doctors don't measure functional markers, they measure disease markers. They're going to wait for that liver to be diseased to show up on their radar. This is why I have to teach you guys this concept so you guys are preventing it, or if you have it, we're reversing it. The medical industry, they believe the blood sugar is going to go exponentially year after year up very slowly like this, and then they're going to decide when to jump in. That means they're going to be way too late. This is not how it occurs. That's why I put an X. Your pancreas, that organ, is the hero. It's going to keep your blood sugar like this, stable. And I put 25 years. It could be 30 or 40 years, depending on your lifestyle. If you exercise like my father, it could be 30 years. If you don't exercise, it could be 5 to 10 years. It's your pancreas working away to keep you in balance when it comes to blood sugar. This is why the medical industry will make the mistake of coming in way too late to diagnose disease. Part 1, I gave you guys a laundry list of health problems that occur from birth to old age. Everything from a colicky baby to a anxiety-ridden teenager to erectile dysfunction to heart disease to dementia to cancer. Everything in between can happen during this period of time that the body is trying to continue maintenance of that blood sugar. The hockey puck graph, which was stable for so many years, now starts shooting up with the blood sugar. That's when the medical industry comes in and they do a glucose test. Doctor going, your blood sugar's high. No, your blood sugar's been a problem for 30 years, but your hero organ, your pancreas, has been saving your ass, working hard to keep that. You see the glucose, they want it between 65 and 99. You could stay at 99 for decades, for 10, 20, 30 years while your body is deteriorating. David knows really well. Peripheral artery disease, circulation problems. But then we have Bill, slim and trim Bill, a two-way bypass. Going back to that picture where I showed you the bodybuilder and the overweight guy, both of them have a liver problem because insulin was too high and the body couldn't keep up and things started to break down. So this is why I hate when someone says, oh, my doctor said my lab markers are good. Do not go by this blood sugar measurement that the doctors do every year because the medical industry is negating the fact that this pancreas is doing the balancing act right here. Medical industry measures disease markers, not functional markers. So I'm teaching you the functional markers so you don't have a false sense of security. Pancreas has to secrete insulin to get that blood sugar into the cell. But guess what the cell says? We have enough energy. We don't need any more. Cell says stop. The blood sugar stays out in the blood because the cell is intelligent. The cell says, if we let this in, we're going to kill ourselves. Cell is protecting itself from you. You're ingesting too much sugar. Day in, day out, multiple times a day, too long, too much. After a number of years, your body becomes insulin resistant. So why is the cell resistant to insulin? Because insulin is the chaperone. It brings the blood sugar into the cell and the cell's saying, no, insulin, no more chaperoning. We don't need any of those glucose molecules. Stay out. So now you know what insulin resistance is. Let's take it a step further. You can have resistance of the brain. You won't be able to think because the blood sugar is not getting into the cell because the cell says, we're done. You say, well, why would the body do that? Isn't that stupid for the body to do it? No, the body's been protecting you for 30, 40 years, and the body says, we're done. You broke us. All medical professionals in the United States will learn from this book, Textbook of Medical Physiology. And I'm going to read to you what is in this book. Increased metabolic use of fat caused by insulin lack. So let's break that down. They knew in 1986, you could utilize and burn up the fat in your body. You got to bring insulin down so that the fat can be burned off. Metabolic use is, remember we talked about bodily functions or your brain? That's metabolic use. Increased metabolic use of fat caused by insulin lack. When insulin is high, you're not going to burn fat.
Wow.
So, David, your doctors went through this. And in defense of your doctors who are watching this, were we tested on this? Absolutely not. Why? Because the medical industry doesn't want you to know what they already have known. And there it is in this book, January 1st, 1986. But guess what, guys? I only did this because this is when I was in school. I graduated with my doctorate in 1991, so this was part of my education. To show you back in 1986, this information has always been there, but it's been hidden by who? Big Pharma, who says, no, 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 we don't want the cat to get out of the bag because once they figure this out, game over for us. And they make a lot of money off of drugs. What is the drug they wanted to put you on, David?
Insulin and pills.
I were to have your doctor prescribe you insulin, do you see the problem it's going to cause?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to put the drug in your body that actually caused your problem in the first place. Remember, too much insulin, too many times a day causes glycation. Glycation is the start of the disease. The doctor says, we're going to have to put you on insulin because we need to get your blood sugar down. The insulin is the problem. And here the medical industry wants to put you on more of it. It's crazy, especially when the textbook of medical physiology by Guyton states that this was the problem. Too much insulin means you're going to hang on to fat. That's basically what this is. So why would a doctor prescribe you more insulin? Because the medical industry, a big pharma, is got their grubby little hands in the medical industry, which is why I always want to stand up for doctors who are misled by big pharma. Medical industry is in here. These are not doctors. Doctor cares about you. Your doctor wants to do good and right by you, but unfortunately they're misled because they're part of the medical industry that's driven by all of the money that's being made by big pharma and also expensive procedures. David, how much did they charge your insurance to cut off your baby toe?
About 10,000.
Yeah. Bill, do you know how much it costs for your two-way bypass?
It was crazy. It was like $50,000 or something like that.
Yep. So there is so much money to be made that Guyton book that was written, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, it's still written for the doctors that are going through school today. But guess what? They're not focusing on it. They'll tell you what to read. Read this chapter, read that chapter, and they'll keep us in line. Remember, I work with men that are 50 and over who want to reverse health problems and disease and also burn off belly fat without diet or exercise. So when you guys come in, you already have health problems. So I know your fasting insulin is not good. But when we get to a point where we are with Ron, do you remember you were in the 50-something range on your waistline and then you went down to 45 and got stuck? Is that what happened?
And now I'm stuck at 45 and I've been stuck there for 4 months.
This is why we are bringing the HOMA IR score up with Ron to show you how I work with somebody who got stuck.
Kaiser refused to do the fasting insulin test. I requested a fasting glucose test. And she said, I can do an insulin test, but I can't do a fasting insulin test. Since I was fasting anyway, she agreed to do the fasting glucose and the non-fasting insulin at the same time. So in essence, I got the fasting glucose and the fasting insulin done.
And do you see he had to do a workaround because they don't want you to know your functional markers. They only want to go for disease markers. So this would be detrimental to the insulin industry money-making scheme. And guess what happens? At your expense. The more you have fasting insulin high, the more your body is breaking down and you're just deteriorating. And you're going to end up eventually, those of you who get put on insulin, you're going to end up at dialysis. That's the end result of people who have too much insulin. Your kidneys are going to give up and you're going to have to be on dialysis. Ron's fasting glucose was 96. His insulin was 8. We do the math, 96 times 8 divided by 405. Here's his number, 1.9. See this? If he's below 2, he is at good insulin sensitivity. Ron, you're not optimal. That's why you got stuck at 45. You would have seen when you first came in that you were either at significant insulin resistance or early resistance, and you've been moving in the right direction. Our goal for every one of you is to get you to optimal, which we can do. Your doctors never talked to you about this.
No,
And your doctors never asked for an insulin test.
correct.
And one of the things I want to say for your doctor, they're locked into the medical industry and they have to play by the rules. I have a problem with the medical industry, not the doctor. David's glucose, 229, insulin, 4.5 divided by 405, 2.55.
That probably was way worse than that
Yeah.
a year ago.
Guys, this is where I want to put things into context.
Well, I was on insulin.
Yeah, exactly. The doctors are always going to have the knee-jerk reaction to put you on insulin because that's what they're taught to do.
My endocrinologist and my physician, they're about to get a ball bat after me because they look at me and they say, why aren't you taking insulin? You got to take insulin. I mean, you cannot imagine what a war it's been.
Here's
But-
what we're trying to fight the war with, education. And this is
Yeah.
a video I want to share with them because I want to say thank you, doctors, for caring about David and do your best. But this is what really is going on inside the body. David, it is true. If you weren't in this group actively working at making your choices better,
I'd probably be dead by now. I'd be dead.
I would agree. I think he would have been dead. This is why your doctors need to listen to you about your journey because you're actually not going to a doctor just to say, okay, well, I'll take this drug and that drug and off you go. I'll see you in 6 months or a year. You're actually saying, no, I'm actually trying to work on fixing it naturally. And this HOMA-IR score is what's going to be our guidepost to allowing us to tell the doctors he doesn't need insulin. His pancreas is secreting insulin. When the doctors threatened David to put him on insulin, I said, no, we have to have data to show us he needs it. But he's been in the program where he's improved himself. He's proven he can make changes to get him into this early resistance stage. Whereas I know rightly well, David was probably in the 5s or 6s when he first joined. But we've moved him down to 3 and now down to at 255. David, I am proud of you. In 3 months from now, we're going to test this again.
Yeah.
I need to keep his doctors at bay when it comes to trying to get him to inject a drug of insulin. That was the whole problem in the first place. In 3 months, your body can show improvement. With the coaching that I do, I've been working even closer with David.
Thank you.
Moving him in the right direction, and I'm guiding him as we go because it's not one of these things where we'll see you in 3 months and see what happens. No, we're actively working together. And this is all to prove to the doctors, hold off on the insulin, please. That's not the answer. And this is what we prove to the doctors, that his pancreas is alive and kicking. And this is one of the things that was the concern. I first met David wondering, is he really a type 2 diabetic? There are a lot of people who've been diagnosed as type 2 who are actually type 1. And a type 1 diabetic does need insulin. Let me repeat that. A type 1 diabetic needs insulin because their pancreas does not secrete it. That's a whole other disease. But here's the problem with the medical industry. Almost to say that if you're a type 1 or type 2, it's just a little bit of difference. No, that's like talking about the North and the South Pole in the same vein. The North Pole and the South Pole are two totally opposite environments, which is why the stupidity of the medical industry giving the same drug for a type 1 diabetic of insulin, giving it to a type 2 diabetic in the late stage of their disease. It's like me telling you, go to the North Pole in a bikini. No, you need a coat for the North Pole. Or if I sent you to the South Pole with a parka, so you have to leave the jacket on. That's how stupid this is, okay? This is why this is key for you guys to understand this concept. Is insulin a good idea to give a patient when they have insulin resistance? No,
No.
the doctors think they're doing the right thing because that's what the medical industry tells them to do. Medical society works this way. If this, then that. That's how we're taught as doctors. And you know why? So that we don't have critical thinking caps on. And this is the problem I had when I was an eye doctor. I was taught a certain way so that I can keep my medical license and make a living. If I go out of that line, I get reprimanded. So I take off my critical thinking cap. All I do is whatever I'm told. What you're doing with this video, you're showing your doctor a critical thinking concept that they don't understand yet, but hopefully this video will help them to go, oh, no wonder my patients end up just getting worse. David?
You said something in previous videos that if you are injecting insulin, your body will say, well, why should I produce any more?
Yes. We
Yes.
want the pancreas to do what it's supposed to do. It's the same thing as testosterone. Those of you injecting testosterone will find that the balls will start to shrink because your testicles are your testosterone factory. And when the factory determines that there's a lot of testosterone floating through the blood, the sensitivity system of your body will go, oh, there's a lot out there, so let's shut down the process of testosterone. But guess what the medical industry loves? Now you're beholden to them. You need their drug over and over again, and you have to pay for it. When your body's sitting here going, we could have made it for you for free if you just would have. I'm talking all these different things because it's never just one thing. It's a multitude of things that we work on. Here's the slide that shows your doctor, David, that you do not need insulin. You are at a stage here of early insulin resistance. The cells have said, no more insulin, please. That's the problem. So giving you insulin is not the answer. Your pancreas is secreting it just fine, proven by the fact of your HOMA-IR score. The mistake that David was making early on is he was having the stevia, the sweetened that didn't raise his blood sugar, because what do the marketing people teach you? Zero sugar, good for you. No, as long as it tastes sweet to this tongue here, insulin's going to be produced. Doesn't matter if sugar's coming or not. Because of the sweet taste, David was spiking his insulin, which is why I called stevia or xylitol or monk fruit a splinter skill, meaning I will allow you in the beginning to utilize it as a drug of choice while you're weaning yourself off. If the tongue tastes it, the pancreas will react, the insulin shows up, and then you can become insulin resistant from a 0-calorie drink. Ron, remember when you said you were eating popcorn? I didn't want Ron to come into this at the beginning and say, no popcorn, no this, no that. No, he would have left a long time ago. We had to do it step by step to where his body started to say, hey, we are happy with this amount of whatever. The path of a drug like sugar or carbohydrates, it takes more and more to satisfy you. Yeah, the body can go the other way too. We just got to be conscious of what we're doing.
I used to make 2 batches to have after dinner, and that was equivalent to about 2 gallons. I cannot eat that much anymore. Even if I make it, I can't eat it in one night. It takes me 3 days to eat that much.
Oh, go
And I
ahead.
don't eat it every day either.
Your body's made that transition. This is what's doable when you're doing it along with your body and not having to use grit your teeth willpower. And it is never too late to make positive change. And why? Because your body's just waiting for you to get out of your own way so that you can make the positive change for your body to do what it always is ready and willing to do, just given the opportunity.
This webinar was to solidify your education and understanding what insulin resistance is and a fatty liver, but more importantly, to remind you the 8-week course was built specifically to reverse both of those. And I look forward to talking to you on the other side.